So it seems that Games Workshop's kicking off 2023 with a bang for Warhammer 40K. A fairly enormous Warhammer 40K release. We've got Arks of Omen, both the Boarding Actions expansion and the Grand Tournament mission pack, and 4 Space Marine Battle Forces. So let's talk about the releases and the prices. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today we're talking about Games Workshop's pre-orders that go live towards the end of this week. All of these are going to be going live on Saturday the 7th, with 4 releases coming on Saturday the 14th. I was wondering exactly when the Arks of Omen and the Space Marine Battle Forces were going to be materialising, but it does seem that the answer is going to be sooner rather than later. I guess good news if you wanted to get your hands on any of these already previewed things already. Let's talk through the contents of the releases, and then the prices of each, and whether or not I think that they're particularly worth it at that cost. So first up, here we have the full list of releases this week. We've got Arks of Omen Abaddon, the one with the Boarding Actions expansion, the Boarding Action terrain set with all the Space Hulk terrain and things, those chapter-specific Space Marine Battle Forces for Ultramarine Salamanders, Iron Hands and White Scars, Arks of Omen the Grand Tournament pack, that's the one with the new detachment and the secondaries and things. It also means that points in the balanced data slate are going to be out fairly soon as well, which is all very interesting. And beyond that, we've also got some Space Marine Heroes releases, plus some dice for the Black Legion. Quite a lot of good stuff there, so let's talk about each in turn. So leading the way, we've got Arks of Omen Abaddon, £35, €45 or $60. So perhaps a slightly higher price than normal for Games Workshop's campaign books. I guess the last equivalents that we saw of these were the Warzone Nachmund ones, seeing as they skipped them for Nephilim, and they did put up prices midway through last year, so I guess that's why this is slightly on the expensive side. As Games Workshop said, they basically aren't putting supplemental army content in these campaign books anymore, partly due to popular demand, as it was just really quite an annoying format to deliver it in. So instead it looks like the selling point of this is twofold. First up, there's all the lore and details of Abaddon teaming up with Vashtor to track down these arcs, and then leading them in some crusade against the Imperium, I believe, to track down some artifacts. Rules-wise though, the main draw is this Boarding Actions expansion for Warhammer 40k, something that at least a fair few people wouldn't be against trying, basically a rule set for 40k but indoors, banning things like monsters and vehicles, and having special rules for line of sight and breaching bulkheads and things like that. Supposedly the Abaddon book contains the fairly basic rules for that set, and then it'll be expanded on in some of the others like the Angron one, giving some stratagems and relics and things for each faction. I feel like for a bit of a curiosity, perhaps a fair few people might find £35 a little bit on the expensive side for that. I kind of feel like it might have been a bit of a better deal if they'd included all the supplemental content in one thing, and not spread out this Boarding Actions campaign between a whole bunch of different books. Still though, it will certainly be interesting to review the new rule set once we get the rules for it. I certainly will cover it on the channel when I get a chance. Next up, and I'd say probably the worst news pricing-wise out of this entire release, is the Boarding Actions terrain set, which I must admit I do think is priced disappointingly highly, £130, €170 or $210, the same as Games Workshop's Battle Forces. I think their idea is that they want you to pick up this alongside the Abaddon book to allow you to play these Boarding Actions games. The terrain itself is pretty similar to the stuff they released in the Kill Team box sets, so I guess if you happen to pick up one or both of those, you might be most of the way there to having a playable set for the Boarding Actions game. It looks like this is supposed to be basically enough of a board to play a Boarding Actions game on. You basically get an entire board of shipboard terrain with 2 different gaming boards to put under it. Though I have to admit I certainly wasn't expecting this to be £130, even though I guess by Games Workshop standards this is basically a whole board of terrain. I don't know whether it's just the fact that it's all a bit squat and low to the board that makes me think that it just doesn't really seem to be on the same sort of level as Great Big Soaring Ruins or things like that. Maybe I was being a bit unrealistic from Games Workshop, but I did expect a price that was around about half that. I'd be interested to hear your guys' thoughts though. Is this far too much at the price it is? Or would you be tempted to pick up a set to play the Boarding Actions 40k but indoors? At this sort of price I think I would also be concerned about the longevity of it. We don't know if the Boarding Actions game mode will even be a thing in 10th edition, which is rumoured to be out later this year. I can't help but think that there's a little bit of a danger that you might invest in a board full of terrain that you just don't wind up using in the future. Look forward to hearing your opinions on that one though. Moving on, we do indeed have the Space Marine Battle Forces this week. It does look like they're going to be the exact same price as the Christmas Battle Forces that we had in the not too distant past, £130, €170 or $210. Now I have already made a video comparing these and ranking them in order of people's preference, points and price and things. That should be out kind of soon, though it was unfortunately recorded before we knew this price. Just to go through them quickly though, there's 4 different ones, one themed around each chapter. For the Ultramarines here, we've got the Scions of Macragge, Marnie's Calguard Tigurius, some Blade Guard, Victrix Guard, the Hellblasters and Intercessors. Broadly speaking, I feel this one's quite a nice one. Both of the Ultramarine special characters, plus a serious amount of plastic bodies otherwise, it gets you the most points on the board out of any of the four. The Battle Force boxes are around about a 25 to 30% discount, unless you're counting the upgrade sprues for the individual chapters, which might have more use to some people than others. Next up, we've got the Salamanders Warforged Strike Force. In this one, you get 3 Aggressors, 3 Eradicators, 20 Intercessors, and Adrax Agatone. You also do get the Salamanders upgrade sprues, just like the Ultramarines got theirs. I'd say that this one isn't terrible, and maybe isn't an awful deal for someone jumping into Space Marines as a faction in general. The Eradicators and Aggressors are good to see for Salamanders, nice non-theme with the Melter and Flamer. I feel like it is just slightly more Intercessors than you might really want in a box. A lot of Space Marine players already have them in a decent number, so getting a massive 20 of them is going to be a turn-off for some people. Then we've got the Iron Hands March of Iron Strike Force. This one gets you Iron Father Phyros and a Primaris Tech Marine, 10 Intercessors once more, and this time 2 big sturdy Redemptor Dreadnoughts. This one does seem to be really quite a popular one. I think it's partly because Redemptors are just powerful and usable models in game right now. Plus having a Tech Marine to go alongside them actually makes sense, get them hitting a bit better and repair their damage once they're injured. The Intercessors aren't dominating the box quite so much. Maybe the only major criticism is there's a bit of overlap between Phyros and the Tech Marine, I suppose. Finally, we've got the White Scar Storm of Chigoris. This one's a very bike-themed one. 6 Outriders, 2 ATVs, Kosaro Khan, and a Primaris Chaplain on bike. Quite cool to see, really quite a fast attack heavy Space Marine army. And the ATVs and the Chaplain on bike haven't appeared in too many discount boxes before. On paper, it's not too bad a discount, though would bear in mind that you can usually get those Outriders on eBay really quite cheaply if you want them. It's a side effect of them appearing in the Warhammer 40K starter boxes. And just for the theme of the box, I do feel it's a bit weird just to have literally the one guy on foot in Khan, just because the White Scars don't have a biker character. Still though, all of them might be usable depending on your purposes. I feel like Games Workshop does limit their appeal a fair bit though by making them quite so heavily skewed towards individual chapters, having a bunch of the value in the box locked up either in special characters or their upgrade sprues. Next up, we've got more paper with the Arks of Omen Grand Tournament Mission Pack. This one's going to be £17.50, €22.50, and I believe that would equate roughly to $30. In this one, there won't be any points or balanced data slates. Games Workshop do seem to be keeping those updates mercifully online, so it means they can actually update their points in line with today's meta and not whatever it was 6 months ago. I'd guess that this is going to be the book that sees us out to 10th edition, at least in terms of match play rules. We know they've got that big Arks of Omen detachment coming, which is really quite de-restricted and allows a fair bit of spam if you want to. Looks like 40k is going to be getting a bit more destructive than it was previously. As well as that, they're also going to be updating the secondary objectives for every single faction, giving them small tweaks up and down. And they're also going to be revising the tournament missions in some way, though it's not clear exactly how much will change, whether it'll be a full mission rewrite, or they'll be broadly similar to the ones that we had previously. As with the previous ones, the expected shelf life of this book will be around about 6 months, I guess. That does seem to be the model that 40k is going for with the seasons and things. At least compared with the big hefty campaign books, it's a fair bit cheaper. I do think it's definitely a better offering than before that Games Workshop are offering the points updates for free rather than included in this book. It means that if you're not too bothered about the tournament style missions and things, you can just have the points updates and not bother to buy it. I feel like the biggest news for the release of this is that we're going to be getting the points updates and the data slates soon. I'll certainly be looking forward to covering those on the channel as soon as we get news. I'd say that those were the major releases of the week, but we've also got this set of Space Marine heroes as well. These ones are models that we've seen previously. They're the second half of a set of 12 miniatures that they've released individually elsewhere, and then have brought back but painted them in Blood Angels colours rather than Ultramarines. The Space Marine hero sets give you some Space Marines with some slightly more interesting poses. They're basically firstborn Marines, and they're a blind box idea. The idea is that if you pick up one, then you get a random one, or you can pick up a box for £40 or €52, and that gets you 8 of them, including all 6 sculpts and a couple of duplicates. Obviously not the most efficient way to get Warhammer 40k models on the board. You'd get more Marines for your money out of a 10-man tactical box. The sculpts of these I think are quite fun, and the option just to pick up say a single Space Marine miniature I think is quite a good gateway thing if you just wanted to pick one up to try out painting one, particularly as the sculpts themselves are a bit more interesting than some. Finally, we've also got a set of Black Legion dice on offer as well. These ones will be £22 or €29, I guess that'll put them somewhere in the region of around $35. I'd guess that the main motivation for releasing these at the moment is the whole Arks of Omen narrative, maybe feeding in with Abaddon the Despoiler and allying with Vashdor. I'll admit I do find Games Workshop's dice to be ridiculously expensive for what they are. Lots of people do like to have their faction-specific ones though, so I guess if you're an avid Black Legion player, then these could be an option if you like them. I'd say the biggest negative for these though is that there looks like there's only 15 of them as opposed to the more normal 20 or 16. I feel like just 15 are maybe going to be a bit limiting on really big rolls in Warhammer 40k, to be honest. You need to be rolling duplicates of them even if you were just say rapid firing a squad of 10 Chaos Marines. So anyway, a rather big release week for Warhammer 40k all in all. Plenty of interesting stuff there. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on the prices down in the comments below. Are you looking to pick up any of this, and why or why not? If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I'll certainly keep the regular news of Games Workshop's releases coming. I do tend to post new 40k videos just about every day. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and that's how I can afford to keep on making videos like this quite so regularly. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.